Now pay attention, 007. I've always tried to teach you two things. First, never let them see you bleeding.
And the second?
Always have an escape.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it may be. I'm Christopher Morales, that one Bond guy, and welcome to the second episode of Initial Bond. And by the title, you are already aware that it's all about podcasting. Now, podcasting and the Bond community, you can say they kind of go hand in hand. I even have a podcast, if you didn't know myself, that I'd sometimes contribute to, and there's just something special about it. The fact that you can hop on and chat about Bond, and it's a little bit more of an easier, laid back way of content creating than, say, a full on video or going on location. And it's a great way that information can be shared amongst other fans. I decided, why not bring a couple people that I've gotten to know, and many of you in the Bond community have gotten to know, and talk about their journey on how they started a podcast. With no further ado, I would like to introduce to everybody Mr. August and Miss Margot of A Good Squeeze Podcast. Welcome, guys. I'm so glad you guys are here. We're finally chatting.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. That was a lovely introduction too. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for thinking of us for this idea, this how to for getting into podcasting, Bond podcasting. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it, and it's good to see you in person, person via the
Right.
computer screen.
That think,
thing.
yeah.
Hashtag.
It's funny because I've been seeing you guys, really put together some awesome content, and the idea of somebody who has been a Bond fan for a while. And then if you guys don't know, please, I'll link everything in the description below to check out their podcast, give them a follow. Also, as a follow on Instagram. But you guys are essentially a couple who is a Bond fan, and then somebody who's kind of learning what it means to become a Bond fan, or what that whole world involves. And especially now with the explosion of this thing called the Bond community and content creation, it's really, really cool to see the two perspectives come together into one place. And love the camaraderie. It's very engaging, and I'm excited to see and hear and learn tips and tricks, because I, for one, need to be a little bit better at my podcasting skills. So I'm going to pick your guys' brain and we'll get into it. The stereotypical question I have to ask, just between the both of you, is how did you get into Bond, and how did that kind of lead into the whole world or idea of podcasting?
I'm gonna let you take this one because he's the expert.
The
nostalgic.
the nostalgic of the novice and the nostalgic. So yeah, I have been a James Bond fan, my entire life, and as I've gotten older, I discovered this Bond content creating community, and it really kicked off for me during that 2020 pandemic era. I discovered, the Calvin Dysons, and then the Bond experiences out there, and the Dutch Bond fans, and so on. And I just loved consuming that stuff. And James Bond brought me a lot of comfort in my life, and now all this content that I was able to consume was bringing me a lot of comfort, and I loved it so much, and I love James Bond so much. I wanted to kind of give back. And we were in the 2020 time, we were dealing with a bit of a Bond drought, and even, post No Time to Die, once that came out, a bit of a Bond drought. And like I said, I wanted to give back, be the change you wish to see in the world, but I couldn't think of what to do. I wanted to create something, but I couldn't think of what. And Margot, my wife, and I, we talk about movies all the time. We talk about pro wrestling all the time, and anime all the time. And we just had this idea to do something together. We wanted to do something together, most likely in a podcast form. So we were trying to discover through our conversations what we should do.
Yeah, these conversations were happening pretty authentically too. I feel like we just in general like to share our interests with each other. Like if I like something and he hasn't dipped his toe in it, I'm like, oh, it's great. So let me show you, let me push you into the pool. And Bond was one of those things where he invited me in, and he wanted to kind of show me what the Bond world is all about. And in like tandem with that, he wanted to create more Bond create Bond content. And initially, you're your first idea was to create like a cozy bond. Like, let's explore the coziness of Bond. Let's
Mhm.
explore why Bond is so cozy. And I feel like there was definitely that like narrative that was missing where you were like, I don't know how to like keep the conversation going if it's just him or something. And then it was like, well, I want to introduce it to my wife and I want to show how cozy it is. Why don't we just create this concept of me introducing you to the Bond community or him introducing me to the Bond community? And what one thing that I really wanted to kind of stray away from is, we're married, wife, husband. That's just
Mhm.
part of our dynamic. But I wanted to stray away from this is a wife and husband podcast because
Mm.
we wanted to kind of make it more of a blanket. Like, this is the Bond fan and the non Bond fan. This could
Mhm.
apply to friends who want to introduce their friends to the Bond
Oh,
community.
okay.
This could be, how do you introduce your kid to the Bond community? How do you introduce your spouse or a, a grandparent? I don't know, anyone, a
Mhm.
coworker. And
A novice,
a
as we
novice,
lovingly
Yeah.
a
say.
novice. So that's kind of when we started toying around with this idea of like, okay, how do you introduce a novice to Bond, to James Bond? And we are just, I don't know, like a long, what do you call those? Like a long-term experiment.
Yeah.
Just trying to see how it evolves. And there's a lot of data, that's for sure. And that's kind of where we're at now, where we obviously we're not gonna like hide the fact that we're married. We're very open about that and proud
Mhm.
of that. But like we do try to stick to this idea of like it's a novice and nostalgic, and how do they explore the world of James Bond and how do they squeeze a little James Bond into their everyday lives?
Yes.
And yeah, so that's kind of the origin story. And that's kind of how I got into James Bond, which is my husband showed it to me,
I
and
see.
that's
So
it.
he had a plan. That's what it was. He was
Yes.
slowly sneaking Bond into the
Yeah.
whole idea, and then at the end of at the very end, he's like, "Oh, just kidding. We're gonna become a content creator." I love
Yeah.
that. That's amazing. I mean,
Right.
to be honest, I think that is something that was really missing from the Bond community, and not just from the fan perspective, but like the content creation perspectives. Like, whenever you obviously, if you look up my channel or the Bond experience or anybody, you're 9 times out of 10 you're a Bond fan. You already know what
Mhm.
to expect. But what if you are again trying to introduce somebody new and that has come into your life, or somebody who wants to have that conversation about something that you're very interested in but don't really know how to, and you guys provide that because you literally are walking step by step with it, and I love that. Again, it's something that I feel like was missing. We totally needed, like we didn't know is what's the saying? Is like we totally didn't know we needed this, but now that we have it, it's
Yeah.
like it's essential now, and I
I
love
love
Thank
that.
you.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something nice that we've experienced is, some people can agree with like
Mhm.
me and my opinions or have reminiscing thoughts of their experience with James Bond, or they can kind of agree with Margot and her new eyes
And
and
the loophole is if someone gets mad at me and is like, "You don't even know what you're talking about." I'm like, "I know, I'm a novice." So like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're so correct. I have no idea what I'm saying here. Um, but no, it's been really interesting experimenting with this,
Mhm.
where we're not only we're it's like he's been introducing me to this whole concept, not just of Bond, but of
Mhm.
podcasting
Yeah.
in general, because he has more experience than I do podcasting. I have zero experience other than this, and prior you had
yeah,
one.
I've dabbled. I've
You've dabbled.
dabbled.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's been a lot of him, navigating this ship and me just
Mhm.
kinda putting, I guess, the coal in the furnace or whatever you wanna call
You're
that.
rowing the boat.
I'm rowing the boat.
Yeah,
Am
I
I?
love that. That brings the organicness out of this, and that's what I think
Cool.
is hits home for me is the fact that you guys really are organically producing this content together.
Thank
And
you.
let me tell you, Margot, all of these spouses and partners out there are probably cheering you on because
Ah,
now they have a way to deal with their enthusiastically involved partner who's in this Bond community type
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing in this Bond world. So, I'm sure my future partner out there is going to be looking back and thanking you for giving them a way to
I'm
cope with
glad.
all of this.
Serving a
But
greater cause.
right, yeah. But that being said, this is part of the series is all about starting off. We all have to start off somewhere, and for those that are watching who may be on the fence of getting their feet wet in podcasting or even wanting to join in the conversation, I wanted to pick your guys' brains on kind of like the process you like the initial process of kind of really laying everything out on the table and be like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to talk about things, topics, or length of certain episodes compared to others. How did you guys kind of start off talking about what you really wanted to produce?
I will say this was the case for us, and I would say this would be the first step for anyone. And before I even get into that, it's definitely one of the cases of if we can do this, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
But I would say the first step is an idea. What is your idea? What is your concept?
Mhm.
And how do you want to express that, go about it? And that's the most important thing of any well, really any idea. But in podcasting, for us, that was the first thing we had asked each other is what is our idea,
Mhm.
but what is our concept?
And I feel like this is something too that's very important. A lot of people, whether they're thinking about it in their head alone or they're discussing it with a friend, a partner, and they're
Mhm.
getting excited about it, a lot of it where it stems from that excitement is what if there was an episode about this and that for a TV
Mhm.
show, or if we wrote a chapter on a book. When you start thinking of like, wouldn't it be so cool if we did an episode on something like this, and then you have the idea for the episode, but then you don't have that next thing, you're gonna drive yourself nuts. So if you're excited about something, pinpoint that. What is it that you're excited about? What are you like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had this and that?" Great. Pause, look at that. What are you excited about? And funnel that. What's the overarching, like, exploration there? What is it that you're excited about to talk about that you could talk about to ad nauseam?
Mhm.
Um, sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yes, sorry. You can talk about forever.
Mhm.
And like, you have to funnel your ideas. You have to slow down. Get excited, but slow down. Look at what you've got. Narrow down your concept, because that's going to drive the rest. If you do not have a concept, you're not going to get very far.
Right.
And that's the number one thing, really.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like I had said in our little origin story, the idea was exploring the world of James Bond with, a novice.
Mhm.
And the journey that begins from there. Initially, admittedly, when we were like, let's do this, we had our idea, we had our concept, and the other kind of things we'll talk about here in a bit. Our initial idea was to just do movies.
Yep.
We were going to do 25 episodes and call it a day. Um, and then that's, another thing that organically happens when you are creating content, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, podcast, what have you. Let's do trips. Let's do cocktails. Let's do
Yeah.
events. Let's.
Let's talk about like rejected Bond themes. Let's
Yeah.
really dig into it and see what else we can talk about. How can we squeeze the life out of James Bond and really stretch this podcast? It's like stuff like that where you change is going to happen.
Mhm.
It's going to evolve. You're going to come up with new ideas, and I feel like sometimes people fight against that, not because they're afraid of change or anything, but they want to commit to their concept. They're like, no, that was our original idea. We're going to do this. We can't start going this direction, that direction. You can always revisit old concepts. You can.
Mhm.
This is all man-made. Nothing is real. Time is a
Mhm.
construct. It's fine. You can go back and change your mind and revisit certain things. There's so many ways that you can navigate that, and I feel like having that open-mindedness and that willingness to evolve and to kind of
Yeah.
just follow where things are going to go is going to take you so much further. And it's not only that, it's not going to feel like work. It's going to be fun, because when things just fall into place, it's just going to be it's just going to be more fun to do, which means you're going to be able to do it more consistently. And you're setting yourself up, essentially. Prevention over intervention. If you can like take those preliminary steps where you're setting yourself up for success, you're gonna have more fun doing it. And at the end of the day, this is why we're doing this. We started this podcast because we just wanted to have fun with it. Like,
Yeah.
we're the little podcast that could, we're not doing too
I love that.
much, but it's fun. And once if it stops being fun, we're gonna go, okay, why is it not fun anymore? We're
Mhm.
gonna eliminate the factors that aren't making it fun, and then we'll make it fun again. It's as simple as that for us.
Very, very, very cool. So recapping, I absolutely love that, and I can totally relate to what you said.
Mm.
Coming up with the ideas on when you come up with those ideas, you ultimately want to just jot them down as soon as possible. I have this whole thing where If I don't have a notepad next to me, I always go to my notes app on my iPhone, and I write down a phrase, a word, or something, or even a whole idea for an upcoming video, just because I know if I don't take advantage of that idea that just randomly pops in your head, you're gonna lose it. So I think that's really, really cool. And then finding that niche and just
Mhm.
rolling with it. And for again, for those who aren't really sure about what their niche is, I mean, that could also be something that you find along the way and develops over time. Wouldn't you say? Is like, even if you go into starting to talk about, like you said, you were going to do the 25 films, but then all of a sudden something hits and you're like, oh, let's talk about this. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. Because nobody talks about that. That slowly kind of becomes your niche. And
Mhm.
I think that's a really good way of finding it, because sometimes you don't always get it right off the bat.
Mhm.
No, and I would say that to anybody is like a piece of advice, because this whole thing can be intimidating.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
putting yourself out there in general can be intimidating and exposing, right? Making yourself vulnerable to a degree. But the advice I would give is you will find your voice along the way.
Yeah.
And by voice, that kind of goes into concept and your candor and the this and that. If you listen to our first episode,
Oh
it
boy.
sounds very different than our most recent episode.
Woof.
Well, if you guys ever want to, you talk about the whole, like when speaking of getting married,
Mhm.
those reception speeches. If anybody wants to go and really make a fool of myself, all you got to do is go look to my first few videos, and you'll see how cringy I am. Because
There you go.
my goodness, like I have never, all of this, and I'm sure you guys could agree, this is all out of pure love and enjoyment of for the hobby,
Of
for the
course.
content creation, or stretching that creative muscle. None of us really. I mean, some people might, but not, at least speaking of for me, I don't have a degree or any background in videography like this. I kind of learned as I went. So kind of growing and learning new things along the way. It's part of the process. So don't be so hard on yourself when you feel like you're not sounding a certain way or looking a certain way. It's all part of the growth process.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that's really important too to keep in mind is when you first start out, and this I feel like applies to any hobby, you want the nicest equipment, you want the nicest backdrop and this and that. My biggest tip and a piece of advice for anyone who's starting this out, think of your resources and then work from there.
Mm,
We already had Mike's because of his previous podcasting ventures.
mhm,
We we didn't buy any new equipment. We have a friend who has a podcast. It's a solo podcast. He just records on his phone and it sounds
mhm,
great. There are so many things you need to look at with your resources because yes, of course it's going to need to be a financial investment, but it absolutely needs to be more of an emotional investment.
yeah.
You need to be able to put in that time in terms of like it's like time commitment. That's an emotional investment. Um, getting social media. What do you call it? Like networking.
Networking.
Networking. That's an emotional investment. Um, kind of also seeing a rise and a dip and a rise and a dip in your engagement. That's an emotional investment, and learning how to manage that and navigate that. That's going to be way more important than, oh, we've got the nicest backdrop. I mean, like, look what we're working with here. Like, like it's we're happy with this. That's the thing. It's not the highest production stuff, but it's about the content, the quality of the content, not the quality of like how the mics or whatever. If you're saying something that like strikes a chord with someone, they're not going to care if it's through a tin can or through, the nicest microphone. But
Yeah.
there's this temptation. You want to get the new stuff. And I am very guilty of this with my 97 hobbies. I always like, oh, what if I invest in this and that? And I'm not getting into it, but I've learned as I've gotten older, like you don't need to do that because it's not even a matter of like, oh, what if you lose interest? It's just be more resourceful and look at what you have because then you're going to find your personality through that. If you're not used to working with big fancy mics, it's going to be tougher for you to have I talk with my hands. We're not going to get the big thing because I'm going to
Mhm,
start smacking it all the time.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
we smack these enough.
Oh gosh, yeah. So it's something like that. Like I would just also stray from trying to look and sound the nicest from like
Mm.
what do you call it, materialistic standpoint. So it's maybe it'll come one day. Might come a point where you're like, okay, like I've been doing this for 2 years. I want to sound nicer. Time to
Mhm.
get a better mic. Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. But
I mean, these little guys, I mean, being transparent, these are like, I don't know, like $30, $40 Amazon
yeah,
things. And I've had them for years, but if people have cell phones, if you
hmm
use that, that's great. You can buy, 4 or 5 $1,000 microphones if you want, and that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Do what works for you, your means,
Right.
and what you're looking to do.
But yeah, and that's the thing, like, not but, sorry, and like that emotional investment is always going to need to top that in financial investment. I feel like that is just like it good content creation and podcasting more than anything. It's about the voice. It's
Mhm.
about the voice because people don't see us unless we're on someone's YouTube channel. To be perfectly transparent, I sit on the floor when we're recording. It's more comfortable and I'm happier that way. So it's just stuff like that. Soundproofing your room, for example. We just record in the room that has carpet. Put up a blanket if you need to.
Yeah.
If you're starting off, I just think that you're not gonna be so focused on like the stuff you have and more the things that you're putting into it. And I think that's gonna help with your concept.
You guys are so great. I felt like I literally just stepped into a masterclass of like you
So
can do
sweet.
it. Like you can do it. Hey, I love it because
You
it's
do
the
believe
truth.
that though. It
It's
is.
the
It's
truth.
important.
You're essentially saying that this idea of podcasting really it's about what you do with it. It's
Yes.
about what you make of it, and that's what I was really trying to key in for those that are watching and are on the fence of wanting you to do something like this. It doesn't take extravagant means to produce something with high quality. In fact, sometimes being simple is the best.
Mhm.
It's the best way of getting your message across. So, thank you guys for that because there were
Of course.
some really good nuggets of information there. I think a lot of people in the audience will agree with and relate with because again, I know when I first started out, I was pretty intimidated. Kind of like August, you were saying, it gets intimidating seeing all of this stuff, all of these gadgets and gizmos that you may need for lighting and stuff like that. I'll be transparent since you guys have. I'm literally using. I took off the cover for my lampshade,
Yeah.
and I'm using that as light right now because my ring light broke. So I'm like, oh crap, what am I gonna do? You got to be resourceful, kind of like Bond. You use whatever's around you to make it work, right? For the
Boom.
sake of the
Full
mission.
circle. Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Beautifully done.
Hey,
Very well
So
done.
broken light, first light, whatever.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So kind of going more into, I mean, you can hit the topic perfectly of talking about the equipment and stuff. But
Mhm.
if you guys could drop, if you remember or kind of has some tips and tricks and where to go to kind of start looking for basic podcasting equipment, where would you suggest checking out? What websites or what things?
I mean, when it comes to equipment, we did touch on work within your means, whether
Mhm.
it's your cell phone, whether you want to use acoustics for like, a carpeted room or a blanket, sound decent. But you do what you can afford and your means, and we're just getting started here, right? So good resources, whether you have them or not, you know, Amazon, Walmart,
What brand are we using? Newer
Mhm.
is
newer microphone.
NEEWER model W800. Oh, there's another letter.
It's hiding.
NW800.
There you go, folks.
Yeah, there you have it. Now you know how we sound.
It's not a paid sponsorship, by the way.
No, certainly not. It's authentic. Look at that, natural.
That's
Haha.
how we do it.
But yeah, get yourself a mic, and
Headphones help a lot.
headphones
Mhm.
help. We
Anything.
have a setup because we're there's two of us. We have something called a Red Scarlet, but it's an audio recording device, or I can't remember the technical term, but it has like a monitor feature. So like I can hear myself talking right now, and I can hear
Okay.
Margot talking.
Hmm.
It goes back and forth like that. It's helpful with guests like that. And just, it's great to just use the internet for research, researching podcast equipment,
Hmm.
researching like tools like a Red Scarlet or Zoom has one, or Task Cam has stuff like that. Just doing research, seeing what fits
Yep.
your vibe and what you're looking to do. But I think the next most important thing as far as equipment goes is what you're recording
Mhm.
on. We got your mic, but where's it going to? So you can use like most computers have like a free audio recording thing. Your cell phone has a free audio recording thing.
GarageBand.
We use GarageBand.
Oh, GarageBand.
We use
Old Faithful. Many people use GarageBand. If you think your favorite podcaster is using some fancy, it's GarageBand. I'll tell you that.
But there's a free software you can download called Audacity.
Yep.
I use Audacity a lot because they have great plugins for audio editing, audio cleanup, things like that. So we'll record in GarageBand, but I'll dump it into Audacity and like remove like room tone, a little hum in the background, stuff like that. So that's like a great tool, like whatever your computer has, but things like Audacity, it's free. And it's a great tool to have. And then, if you got your mic, you got your headphones, you got your software you're recording into, and you can also, like I said, you can use like a device, like a task cam that has an SD card, what have you.
Yeah.
From there, where are you going to post it to? I know if you're a Spotify user and you have Spotify, you pay for it. They offer like a service where you can post your podcast directly to Spotify and with no like additional charge.
Yeah.
But
sometimes, honestly, just a quick Google search. Like when in doubt, look up where can I put? How do I post a podcast? It'll write everything.
Google is a great thing.
That's actually how I found where we do post our podcast to. I typed in like where to post your podcast because I wanted it to go everywhere, not just Spotify, but like Apple Podcasts and Google Play and iHeartRadio and whatever.
So we go through Audio Boom, correct?
We use Audio Boom, and I found that through a search. Audio Boom is a URL, and it's like our hub. We post to Audio Boom, and then it goes out everywhere else.
So to recap, microphone, because you need to record that beautiful voice. You need to hear yourself with headphones. You don't need to have that, what do you call it?
The Red Scarlet.
Red Scarlet
audio. That was in our vibe.
Then software to capture everything, maybe additional software to edit it, and then post it out. Audio Boom, highly recommend. Again, newer model NW800.
Love it.
You're welcome.
Boom, right there. I love it.
Go.
Right there. Firsthand. My goodness. Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot that goes into it, but also too, it's so simple when you can break it down just like that. So hopefully everybody viewing can see that. It's quite simple when you have great resources such as YouTube being able to explain. So
I'll say we're a resource, but we're not. We're just like an opinion, right? We're not the end all be all.
Right. Yeah.
If I may add a component, I don't want to stamp on your questions or anything either, but it's just in terms of the editing software. This is a really important piece. I am lucky that this man knows how to edit. He knows how to edit audio.
I was going to ask who was in charge of that. Yeah, that's also a fun part.
All him. So this is kind of the point I was going to make. And excuse me if I'm getting ahead of myself with your questions or anything. But think when you're thinking about your resources, what do you have? Do you have the time to edit? Do you like editing? Have you ever edited before? That's part of your skill set, is part of your resources. So I've never edited anymore. Margo, I have never edited before, like actual audio. He has, so he was used to it, and it was fine for us to kind of make longer format episodes, just bullet points in terms of notes to guide the conversation. But if I were doing this by myself, to be perfectly frank, I think I would come up with a script because I wouldn't want to edit. I don't know how to edit, and that's something that isn't in my skill set. So if I were doing this alone, I'd have to take that into consideration. So creating your concepts comes into your budget, where it's like, do I know how to edit? Do I know where to post? Do I need somebody else to do something for me? Take that into consideration when you're thinking about these things, because it's like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't do it for money. I don't want to edit. I've done it once, and it was for like social media management, and I was like, I am done. I'm never doing this again. So keep that in mind too.
This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I've picked these two to talk about this, because Margo, you were saying earlier, stepping on questions or whatnot. That literally was one of the questions that I had. So you're right on cue.
Oh my gosh. Okay, cool.
Mind you, everybody, I haven't shared what I'm going to be asking with them too. So this is why they're professionals, No, but I love that, and that's the truth of it all. It's like you got to make sure too you're investing time to edit. Like editing is part of the production of something, the quality of something. If your heart isn't going to be in it 100%, like is it something you really should be doing? You know, you want to provide the best quality content you can, but also at the same time, your heart has to be fully in it too.
I agree.
Speaking of heart, we're
Yeah.
going to get a little emotional now. We're going to kind of stray away from all the technical stuff and whatnot. And I just pulled a Margot and hit the mic.
Pulled a Margot.
All right, I had to.
That's good. That's good.
And we're going to talk about, you know, because again, you guys have been doing some amazing things. You guys have some adventures planned because of the fact that you guys have started this Bond content journey, and you've met so many people along the way. I guess the first question I have for you guys is like, what has this podcast, this adventure, given both of you personally?
Do you want to go first?
Why don't you start? I'm curious what you'll have to say as the novice, as the novice in the sea of nostalgics, as we say.
So I mean, the obvious answer is I get to be part of the Bond community. It's fun to be part of, you know, a group of people who love something so much and they're so eager to share it with you, and they're so welcoming and they're so kind. But the real answer truly is, or I guess the first answer, that would be the second one, is I get to guaranteed every 2 weeks, me and my husband are going to sit down together and we're just going to have a chat. We're just going to talk. We're not going to be on our phones. We're not going to be forcing some kind of, oh, well, what about the house and this and that? And oh my gosh, taxes are coming up, this and that. You know, like it's leisure. It's a leisurely conversation that we just look forward to and we know is going to happen. And it's almost like a fun little surprise where he's like, okay, this week we're going to talk about this, because he comes up with the concepts too. I'll contribute every once in a while, but he really has created this environment that's so just like, I wasn't a Bond fan, but I'm really excited when we record. I love doing this. Like, even like now, again, I pulled a Margot. Here we go. Like, it's a thing now. Like when you invited us on your channel, I was like, oh, that's so exciting. Like, and I had never met you. I didn't really, you know, August does most of the talking, you know, with you and online and everything. So like, but I didn't know you, but I was like, oh, that's so exciting. We get to be like on Chris's like YouTube channel and everything. Like, and like, it's cool to nerd out over something that is not just like the topic, like Bond. It's really exciting to be part of those conversations, but being part of the people in that community. And that's something that I think is really iconic to the Bond community, is they are so nice. They are so nice. Everyone here has been so kind. And I sound like a broken record because that's been my thing every time somebody asks, like, what do you think of the Bond community? I'm like, they're great. I got no problems. Everyone's been so welcoming. Nobody treats me like his wife. I mean, obviously they know I'm his wife, but it's like I'm Margot, and there's like, you know, there's this excitedness that like, or this eagerness to bring me in and to, you know, include me, and not just that, but include us as a duo. Like, we're a package deal. So like, you know, there's just something really nice that like I get to do something with my husband once a month, once a week, that is just for fun. And now, not to say that we don't do that, but because it is part of our routine and it's part of our schedule, at least, you know, if it's been a hectic 2 weeks and we've got a bunch of stuff going on, we know for a fact at least we'll get a whole hour to 2 hours of just chill. Let's talk about Bond. Let's have a good time. And so that's the biggest thing that this podcast has given me, is just that emotional support and that like social outlet and that just like warm fuzzy feeling of like, you know, we get to hang out together. Okay, like, I don't know. Right.
Margot, we get it. You guys are absolute. You guys are absolute goals. Okay, we'll just put it out there. Goals. One thing. I love it. What about you, August?
I mean, the biggest thing this podcast has given me is the opportunity to not only document, but to share this thing that has been so dear to me for my entire life, with my entire life. Goals. No. Yeah. You know, James Bond as a franchise, as a character, has just been something I've engrossed so much of my being in. To now be able to share it with Margot has been exciting, interesting, you know, frustrating. But overall, it's just been a beautiful thing. Not only that it's with Margot, but just someone new, someone who's never experienced this for the first time. So getting to see it with like fresh eyes, fresh thoughts, emotions. It's been a cool journey to be able to experience it on my end, but then also to share it with others. And it's been refreshing for me too, because for example, let's say we've watched For Your Eyes Only a million times in my life. I get to watch it with Margot, her first time, and I like to curate, the night to the movie. So like we drink Greek wine and then we make meals from the movie and things like that. So it's very themed, and her eyes seeing it for the first time, it feels fresh. It's like I'm seeing the movie again for the first time.
And I'm not short of opinions too, so
And she is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
She can be brutal.
yeah, I
Uh,
can be nice too.
You can be nice.
A second tiny little thing too, what's really nice now is I can just pepper in Bond references, and see who in the room like gets them. Like one time I was at work and I was fixing the printer, and someone was like, "Oh, you got to call the IT guy to do that. You can't do it yourself." And I did it myself, and I went, "I am invincible." And like one
Nice.
dude looked up, and was like, "Yes, you are." And I was like, "You know what that's from? You know what that
Nice.
is?" But
Nice.
like that's where the conversation would have ended because I would have been like, I got nothing else. So like,
I
but yeah.
can't go without mentioning the Bond community,
Yeah.
because that is something I wasn't expecting to, be so engrossed in, and like I don't want to say yearn for, but like
Yearn for
it was
them.
something I didn't know I needed till I got it, right? That's what we were saying
Friends with
earlier.
similar interests. It just helps. It makes life
It's
better.
it's been so great because I mean, we didn't really talk about this in the origin, but like when we started our show and started putting it out there, we were just throwing it into the ether.
Mhm.
We weren't really seeking out, like, hey, check out this podcast. Like I wasn't even posting it on my own personal like social media things.
Yeah.
And we were just putting it out there. Whoever listened. And we've been going for a couple years now, but it wasn't until about this last year that, decided to put ourselves out there, reach out, say hi to a lot of people within the Bond community, and the response to a good squeeze, but to us has been like really overwhelmingly positive and welcoming and loving, and we've made really cool
People
friends.
love us, okay? Like, no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
People hate
Hey,
us.
no,
too.
rightfully so. You guys, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but you guys are great, and
You're so sweet.
I'm so thankful that you guys are part of the Bond community and the podcasting world too.
Well, thank you for
in-
being part of that structure that created the Bond community. So thank you.
well, thank
truly.
you. We all work together.
Yeah.
We're bonded by bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
All right.
okay. On that note, closing points here. Just from each of you guys, one last piece of advice for somebody that's like right on the edge, maybe nervous, or just wants to get their feet wet in this podcasting world. You give one last final nugget of information.
I'm like about to burst. Yes, I will go first. I will say, keep this in mind when you're creating content. If you have a product, there is a demand for it. If you create a product, there's going to be, you're not the only person who has thought of it. You're not the only person who has wanted it. There's someone out there who wants to consume your idea. If you have a product, there's a demand, which means there's going to be an audience out there for you. There's also 8 billion people on this planet. So it's going to take some time to get to that audience. Like we just said, people were like, "Oh, look at these new up and comers. Like they've been around for like 6 months." I'm like, "We've been doing this for years. We have been doing this for years, and it took us a long time to get a following." So my big piece of advice is, do not get discouraged if you're at 37 followers, 12 listens for 3 years. That was the case for us. One thing that meant like the world to me, something that happened earlier on, I think this was like 2 years into it. This guy reached out and commented on all our posts and was like, "I've been binging your podcast. This is excellent. Max, shout out. You're super cool, dude. Thank you for all the support." Cause like this is how I see it. If you're holding up a piece of art, 10,000 people doing this is going to mean so much less than one person stopping and going, oh my God, this is amazing. Look what you've made. One person actually going out to you and commenting and engaging with you is going to mean so much more than having like 10,000 followers, something like that. Like think about what it is that you're putting out and think of it as like individual people need to hear it for you to build that following. So don't get discouraged if it's a slow start, you'll get there. But keep persisting, keep being yourself, and don't do it for the engagement because people will come. Be patient, build those relationships, but really think, do this for you, people will come. And that's my biggest.
See this is totally not Bond, but see if you guys get this. Build it and they will come.
What is that?
A pop quiz.
Build it and they will come. Build it and they will come.
Field of Dreams.
Yes.
I would say the bench warmers.
Whatever. Yeah.
That's a line in there too.
It's more up my alley.
Yeah. The last bit of advice. I mean, that's like where my brain was going, but if you're looking at it as like a how-to for podcasting in the Bond community, we'll say it could be for anything, but I kind of said it all already, but have an idea, a concept, have a microphone, have a platform, network. I love the consistency, so I'm not consistency. It's more like don't be discouraged. We put ourselves out there into the ether, and we're just going to see what happens. If you are passionate about your idea, I think that's maybe what I'll stick with, the passion of it. I mean, it doesn't have to be your whole lifeblood. It could be a hobby. It could be just something you enjoy so much. You just like got to share it. Stay true to that. And, I keep
I'm not editing that part.
Don't.
Editing.
You say I keep saying consistency. What is the word? Discouraged. Don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged. Yes, stay with what you're passionate with. Don't get discouraged. Just keep persisting, and
your follower base is going to do this. You're going to gain 5 followers and you're going to lose 10. That means it's 10 people who weren't listening. See you guys later. No problem. Because you gained 5 people who are into your stuff.
Yeah.
Celebrate that.
Yeah. And that comes back to the emotional investment. Maybe you're not investing in, this platform, or you're investing money into this network, or investing money in this microphone, what have you, but you're emotionally investing in your audience and the people who have reached out to you, the people who you'll find your target audience essentially, and invest into them as they are investing into you. What did I say earlier to you? It was like it was good too.
It was good. He had a good line, and I don't remember what it was.
Like you're following aren't following you, you're following them. I don't know. It wasn't like that. But
we'll DM it to you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
it was good.
The line right here, maybe.
Yes, there we go. Oh, good. Okay, cool.
But no, that's perfect. And guys, thank you so much. That's all I have with regard to questions, and I've definitely learned so much more. And the fact that the biggest thing for me personally is that it's not as intimidating as one may think it is. Once you find your passion and your idea, you go with it and you have fun with it. That's the biggest thing that I've gotten out of it. So
cool.
August and Margot, thank you so much for sharing your insight. I know for a fact you've probably reached, if not one, quite a few people watching this video, and who knows, maybe your contributions will lead to them enjoying this wonderful world of podcasting and being creative. So hats off to you two.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having us on. Obviously, we love talking about this kind of stuff, and we are, just as the Bond community, people such as yourself and everybody else involved, you guys have modeled so much like inclusivity. You've modeled this idea of welcoming people. We want to model that too, not just because we want to, but because it's just so inherent to this community. So thank you again for having us on. And to anyone out there who wants to put your voice out, just do it. Remember, we're just a bunch of guys and gals just in attics and basements, we're just like
cool
you.
Nerds. That's okay. We can say that. We're the cool nerds.
We're the cool nerds. So come join the club. Everyone's invited.
Thank you, Chris, for having us on your channel, but thank you for thinking of us for your series, and specifically about podcasting.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Well, thank you for joining me, and I'm gonna let everybody know here that all of the information to their podcast and their Instagram will be linked in the bio. But again, this has been a great, insightful second episode of Initial Bond, all about podcasting, and had to have the great people from A Good Squeeze join me. Thanks again, guys. And that being said, thank you everybody for watching and supporting the channel. And as always, I'm Christopher Morales. We're going to end it here. That one Bond guy. I'll see you guys on the next episode.